moot court competition that usually takes place in India. It is done in the continued legacy of former Chief Justice P.M. Bhagwati in a claim for championing of human rights. This year's competition took place at the Bharati Vidyapith University in India on the 24th to the 26th of March 2023. In studio, we have a panelist that will help us shed some light and tell us more about the moot court competition that took place in India.
My name is Patience Wangari Mwangi. I am a finalist at the University of Nairobi School of Law. That is 4th year, 2nd semester. Yes.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate. My name is Victor Gihika. I am from the University of Nairobi, Faculty of Law, and I'm also a final year student. And I also happen to be the president of 2 student societies, namely the Moot Court Society and the Law Students Professional Society. And I am very glad to be on this show this morning.
First things first, because for someone who is watching this show for the first time, somebody who wants to pursue law, and I want us to begin with the basics. What really is moot?
Thank you. So mooting is, a moot court is a simulation of a court proceeding. So what you'll be doing is you'll be appearing before a judge in a court of law, sometimes a bench, and you will be appearing as an advocate for a particular side. But in mooting, you use a hypothetical case. So it's something that has been set up. So a question has been set. So you write submissions first, you submit them, they are marked. And then based on those submissions, you conduct some more research and then you appear before the court. So the only missing thing from a moot and a real proceeding is the evidence part. Because in mooting, you assume the facts are correct. So you don't examine witnesses, you don't do deposition. The only thing that you do is submit your arguments in support of the case, or on the other side defending the party who.
Oh, thank you for that. Now, based on still on the same, I want you to tell us what are some of the cases that are discussed in mooting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe the laws that are applied. Exactly.
Okay. So there's really a lot I could say, but in summary,
yes,
moots are set on various areas of law. So different organizations organize different moots to promote different areas. So the most known is human rights. So this particular moot is on human rights. We have a number of them, like we have the Christoph Heinz African moot.
yes,
It was previously known as All African.
yes,
We have other moots on public international law, international environmental law, international trade law. So that's international law. Under domestic law, we have other areas of law.
okay,
Like for instance, University of Nairobi has a moot on corporate commercial law.
yeah,
Strathmore University has another one on tax law. They have several. Egerton University has one on rule of law, on access to justice, and of course the one we all know, the All Kenya Moot Court competition,
wow,
on constitutional law, rule of law, and so forth.
wow, thank you for the explanation. Now, questions. Kindly tell us, the process, how many teams participated, both the locally and the international. Take us through the process of the moot court.
In the BHAGWATI moot, a total of 26 to 28 teams participated. We had both local teams and international teams. International teams from Thailand, from Kenya also, yes, and that is basically what happened. Then we also had local teams that participated, but one thing that we note is the university's team did not participate. So, yes.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah. To you, Mercy Chepto, how was your experience participating in such kind of a moot court competition? Yes.
I think the experience was exceptional. I think it was excellent. we not only benefited from the knowledge from those who were competing against, but we also benefited from the knowledge of a panel, a bench. They had invited High Court judges from, I think, Delhi, Mumbai and all. Then even the Chief Justice, New Delhi, was so gracious to grace the event. So we had this infinite amount of knowledge. Like, we just not only competed, but we also learned. We learned more about India, we learned more about the case, because it's just not hypothetical in that sense. It's an actual thing happening within India.
Okay.
So we managed to get more experience, get more knowledge and all that.
Okay, so Victor, Mercy says it's something that, the case was something that was happening in India. Kindly tell us what the case was all about, and if you were on the defendant side, or which side were you in? Exactly.
Thank you so much. So the case was about a state. So India, like the way in Kenya we have counties, in India they have states. So it is about an area of international law called state succession. So how states are formed, from their inception. So for instance, Kenya was formed from a former colony, and it became a republic. So in India, formerly India was together with Pakistan. So Pakistan seceded on the basis of religion, and there were other states in that region that neighbor India and Pakistan that had been under British rule. So they were under various degrees of British administration. So that particular state is called State of Jammu and Kashmir. So the problem there is that 3 countries claim to control the territory of this particular state. So that is India, Pakistan, and China. So each of them have a territory within, and the problem has been that within the territory controlled by India, there are wars. So there has been like 4 or 5 wars are happening between India and Pakistan concerning this territory. But the major issue is the human rights violations. So when these wars are occurring, when people are fighting over the territory, a lot of human rights are violated. So we were asking both the question of, should this state be allowed to be a state independently of Pakistan or India or China? And number 2,
Allow me to interject. So those are the bond of contention.
exactly.
So the bond of contention one was?
So the first thing was the issue of self-determination. Should the people of this state be allowed to determine themselves and form an independent state? Then number 2, has India, of course, in a moot, you may be dealing with a real situation, but you don't use those names so that you are not making arguments against a state. So the names usually are fictitious, and everything that is within the case is fictitious. So in a sense that you are dealing with real things, but you are calling them different names. So the second issue basically was whether any of the states has violated human rights during the wars.
Well, thank you so much. You are the best male orator in this competition. How does it feel for you? Tell us how it. I want you to tell us, take us through the process. You've not even told us, which side were you? Were you for the applicants or for the respondents?
Okay, we were for both sides. So in a moot competition, I think that is the interesting things, and that is what it teaches you as a law student, that you cannot just look at one side of the story. So even when you're writing submissions, in real proceedings, you'll just write proceedings for the applicant or the respondent. By the way, the case was before the International Court of Justice, which is the highest court on the planet. So you argue for both the applicant and the respondent. Coming to your other question of how it was for me and how I got to get the award. So we have general rounds where all the teams are arguing against each other in different courtrooms. Then they mark your memorials. They also add your oralist marks, and the one with the highest score gets to win the best oralist. But how personally it was for me, I think we as a team has some bit of experience participating in moots. So I think among the teams that were participating, we were able to convince the court based on our arguments. And also something that was very critical for us, I think, is the opening statements and closing statements. You know, you see in movies like Suits and everything, you know, how a strong opening can really make the bench just want to hear you, rather than just coming to say, this is what the law says, this is our argument. So I feel how you open and how you close also really convinces the judges to listen to you.
Give me an opportunity to have a mix between diplomacy and litigation, because one way or another, those are very too diverse, but very too intricate areas of law, because you get to learn how to argue and you get to learn how to argue in a diplomatic way. Yes, yes.
Okay, before we proceed, I want to ask Victor, I know, you guys going to India. This is not a joke. I know a lot of things, it entails a lot of things. Funds have to be there for you guys to go to India. I want you, Victor, to tell us, how did you guys get the funds as the University of Nairobi law students to go to India? I'm sure most of the schools were not able to participate in such a competition, not because they were not competent, but because they lacked funds. So I want us to tell us, like, how are you able to get the funds to go to India, and then what are some of the measures that other schools can take so that they're able to make sure that they also reach to a place where you guys are?
Okay. Thank you. And Mercy will add something since she's in our Moot Court Council. But I agree with you first that funding is an actual concern for moots because we have quite a number of moots, more than, I would say more than 25, 30 internationally. Locally, we have more than 10 moots. So for each of those, one of the major questions that arises is, how do you get funds? So luckily for us at the University of Nairobi, the current Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kiama, and our Dean, Faculty of Law, Professor Winnie Kamau, have really invested in mooting, and they have seen the value, rather the university has seen the value that Moot Court has. It has actually now become a compulsory unit that students have to undertake. So because of that investment, we have been sending students to various moots. We just sent students to Brazil for a mediation competition. We had best oralist also in that competition. We sent a team to Austria, Vienna, for a competition. We are sending this week, I think this week or next week, a team to the USA for another one. So luckily the university has seen the value and it's investing. But since we have also a high demand for moots, we need to ensure we are participating in as many as we can. But of course, because funds are limited, sometimes we have to partner with other firms, and firms have really been, law firms that is, have sometimes been, not sometimes, have been very generous in terms of donating. So for instance, in the moot, we sent a team to Vienna. A law firm called Jones Day contributed. But as I finish on the question, for PN BHAGWATI in particular, part of the funding came from the organizers, and part of the funding came from the University of Nairobi. So moots are organized differently. So some have scholarships, like for the Brazil one, it was a total scholarship, but then you have to qualify, you have to get into elimination rounds, and Mercy will explain the criteria for that.
Kindly tell us, explain to us, in fact, that is one of the questions that was coming to. Back there in school, I'm sure somebody may sit down and say, why Mercy? Like, why Patience? Why Victor? And especially now that even Victor is the president of the University of Nairobi. So I want us to tell us, so that in case somebody not just to sit down and say, it's because they're the best. What was the criteria for you guys to go to India?
Okay, so I'm going to speak on that in two areas. One, in that there are usually qualifying rounds, in that we have internals. So for most moots, like for probably national and also international moots, the Moot Court Society itself will hold internals, in that members of the Moot Society will hold a panel, have volunteers, those who want to participate, and have them just compete against each other. Then the best team from the school, could be one, could be two, like for Kenya they require two. So those two teams will go and represent the school at the All Kenya competition. For international moots, it's usually the same, not unless you have to register directly. So sometimes there aren't qualifying rounds, so a team just has to register directly. But then again, the school, Kiika as the president has always insisted on us having internals. So for every moot we are doing, we usually have internals within the school, even though the national or international criteria does not demand it, so that we have the best going out there, so that we just don't have probably friends of Kihika going there or something like that. So we just have the best of the best, because we want the school to shine in that light. We want them to continue funding this mood. So once they see we are doing well, so once they see we are winning awards, or you see we are sort of portraying the school in a good light, they are more inclined to fund it. So qualifying, internals, such things.
Something else I want to ask now, because you guys, I believe you're the best. Let the cream the cream, okay? Now I want you to tell us, what about those voters, you being the leaders, you're part of the Moot Court Society, you being the leader, what are some of the measures that you're doing, even for the average mooters are in a position to be in a place where you are? Somebody can sit down and say, by the way, it's Mercy who has been mentoring me. So you being as the leaders, Victor and Mercy, what are you doing to make sure that the average mooters are in a position to be where you are today?
Okay, so I'm going to speak on this from the perspective of the research officer, then Kihika can take the as the president of the society, and patients can see whether it's working or not. So as the research officer and logistic officer, we usually have trainings. We have trainings, we have memorial writing trainings, we have oral trainings. So these are not just for those who moot, this is for everyone. So we send them to every group in school, 1.1, 2.1, 4.2, anyone who's interested, because it's just not about mooting, it's also about how you're able to communicate with people, because it's oration. It's also about how you're able to write. So we teach you how to research. We teach you how to find primary sources. We teach you how to find secondary sources. And I also think one of the few things that makes it better is that for every competition internal we've held, Kihika's last speech usually starts with, even though you've lost, please do not give up, like just keep focusing. You see, not everyone is going to get the opportunity to probably win, but if you keep honing your skills, if you keep diversifying, you keep learning new things, how to speak before a panel, how to write, how to even research. This is useful for a law student because our work is majorly submission. It could be writing, it could be oral. So we have trainings, we partner with other schools, we invite guests from other schools. So yeah, that's how we do it, so that at least everyone gets to learn one or two things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chipto, for a wonderful explanation. So what I can add is that even as we train, we try to get the best. And by the way, Kenya as a country is, do I say among the best, or just the best? Because we have Strathmore University beating Harvard and Oxford. We have Choir, that's Catholic University, has beaten quite a number of teams. We have Kenyatta University, so we are defending champions of a lot of international moots. University of Nairobi is also defending champion of quite a number of moots. I myself am defending champion of 2 competitions as best oralist. Thank you. So even as we train, we try to obtain those best people. So when we are training, for example, for memorial writing, we'll have a More Asker who won a competition as a second year. They won the African Moot as a second year. Just last year, they won best memorials on the planet for the Stetson Moot. So, in addition to what patients will say in terms of whether it's working, the results speak for themselves. And now that I said it's a unit, we have, a whole faculty led by Dr. Nkatha Kabira and Dr. Constance and our coordinator, Mr. Alosa. Those are like our patrons, since we are a student society, who teach the moot court course. And sometimes they invite us from the moot court society to join the classes and encourage. And finally, just like Chepto has said, for me and, for all of us really as a team, because we have been as a team for quite a while, I think since second year, since our first moot Chepto in Mombasa. It's the journey really that counts, because of the thousands of law students in the country, not all of them will get to participate in international competitions, but even that internal competition that you do, and that's why we insist that there must be an internal, and we must take, even if it's 30 teams that apply, we must hear them out, we must give them the chance. So it's the journey really, and because at the end of the day, it's not about whether you won best oralist. It feels good and it opens opportunities, but it's about whether you learned something that will help you as an advocate.
Please rate their results.
Okay, I will rate their results. This is because first I will begin with numbers really speak. Yeah. That is very true. Numbers really speak. And in the University of Nairobi School of Law, especially Nairobi, I'll focus on Nairobi, numbers are really speaking, where we have a high interest of mooting in the society, in just the whole faculty. We have first years coming to ask, what is mooting? That is something we did not witness in first year back in 2019, because then it was something where we knew Hika is doing and someone else is doing. Not everyone was doing it, but right now you have people asking, and the fact that people are asking, it means they're interested. And also results also speak. We've seen people, Kihika has mentioned how people have gone to Brazil. We have one going to the USA. We went to India. We have another team that went to Austria. I think also that speaks. And also one thing that I also noticed is the Moot Court Society has representatives from every class, such that for first years, second years, third years, fourth years are represented in the council. I think that ensures that everyone is heard and everyone is represented. Yes.
Wow, thank you. Now, still on just about the BHAGWATI Moot, maybe you can tell us what are some of the ideas you came with that even you can share with other law schools, because I'm sure they'll want to know. Kindly tell us about that.
Okay, thank you. I have two main ones, and these were very interesting, and I think I have shared them with all my friends. Again, as Mercy said, you get to network with so many people. Right now, we have contacts, across a lot of universities in the world, across all law schools in Kenya. So I have for sure mentioned some of these tips that we can employ. And the main one, and I think really the one that spoke to my heart personally, is the fact that a host university for any competition does not participate. Yeah, like Patience had mentioned. And that is to ensure that they are able to organize the competition at an extraordinary level, and also to remove the perception of bias. Because you can be sure, for instance, I've judged some of MKU moot competitions as student judge. Yes. And, one of the things that is there is bias, because if you have a team that is participating, the judges may try to be as impartial and, to be as kind and to award marks kindly. But there's always that thing, if MKU still ends up winning, they'll be like, yeah. So in India, that is one of the strategies that they have implemented. The second one, and I think this flows from that, and we were asking each other all the time, they had like 5-10 committees. Yeah, so you would just be chilling and you hear, members of the core committee, members of the hospitality committee, team escorts. So I think one of the things we really enjoyed about the moot is that it was efficiently organized, and sometimes in Kenyan moots, because you have like 5 courtrooms going on at the same time. Sometimes not each of the courtrooms will have enough audience. So in those courtrooms that we were in, there were like people designated, these committees designated to ensure this courtroom has an audience. So I think it was very efficiently organized, and there's a lot we can learn as Kenyan moots. We try our best, but I think we could implement those 2 tips.
How has been your experience, especially being a leader, you participating in the Indian competition, also being a leader at the Kenun? So tell us about that. We'll begin with that. Let's begin with Mercy.
It has been. I want to speak about the journey. I think the journey has been excellent. I think from first year, where you think you actually want to take law in this perspective to where I am right now, I think the journey has been rewarding, very rewarding. Yes, I get to see myself in certain spaces I didn't think I'd occupy in first year. I get to see sort of developing a voice in situations or topics or current affairs that I want to probably venture into. I don't know if the passion is still there. I hope it is. But since I'm almost done, I think it is. It's been excellent. The people, the learning, just everything. It's been wonderful. Also getting to study at the University of Nairobi. I think I always wanted to do that. So since I'm already done with that, I think ticking just the box and saying I was here and I get to move on. So I don't know. I know this doesn't sound, I don't know how to put it, like makes you want to go to law school. But if the passion is there, if you really want to do it, if you're passionate enough, or this is something you want to like look at it and say I did it, I think it's one of the few things you can do.
My law school experience. Half of the people in law school didn't want to go to law school. But we ended up there. I myself was, for the physical sciences, and I didn't even take history, by the way. There is that myth that you have to be a good history student. Yeah. For lawyers, we are also criticized for not being very good at math later on. But then my journey, transitioning into a law career, I don't think I would have enjoyed any other profession than I have moot court, because it actually conforms with my personality. My personality is advocate, INFJ. So, those of our viewers who have not taken the 16 personalities test can go out and find out. But for me, I think it's how it opens your mind. Because as a very comprehensive course, like journalism, I would say, there is literally anything you can cover. Like you could cover whatever. So for law, it's also the same in terms of width. There's a law regulating everything, including media, including medicine, including engineering, including, I don't know, aeronautics. I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer or a doctor. But as a lawyer now, I think for me, my experience so far is that I want to become a dispute resolver. So I want to deal with disputes, from in different dynamics, as a mediator, as a negotiator, going to court, being a tribunal, I don't want to say tribunal judge, a tribunal member, adjudicating cases, and eventually perhaps becoming a magistrate or a judge. So I would urge, I think in terms of law school experience, for our viewers, like my cousin who's joining MKU Law School in May, I would urge them to take out those extracurricular activities, because law as a course can send you to the library. Like, it can make you a bookworm. So apart from the academics, which are very important, you need also to venture out, because there is a lot you can do. She has done a lot of work with research and international law and tax. She's done a lot of work with the United Nations, and she knows quite a bit. And yes, apart from what she has gathered from class. So I think that is how it opens you to a world of opportunities.
Reads one of fear and doubt, because I won't lie, there was a point in 3.2 where it was just, you wonder, it was hectic. But if you have that passion, you want to say, I want to finish this, and I want to finish it strong and well and good, you get. So that's one thing. And then another thing, I'd encourage people, when law is not easy, but it is fun. Yes, law is not easy, but it is fun, because once you start joining these extracurricular activities, you get to understand where your mind actually wants to go. For me, I won't lie, once I joined law school with the intention of being a property lawyer, but once we did property law, and once I interned in a law firm and I got to work with conveyancing, I was like, this is not for me. This is not for me. Yes, so you get to view the world in a different perspective from what you actually thought. You think you know it until you're there, and you're like, no. Let me try something else. Yeah, so you get to try something else. Victor said that he wishes to go to the dispute resolution part. I think for chapter, we all know, but I won't speak for her, but she will say where she wants to venture. But for me, I want to venture into the corporate world. So you get to work with these big firms and these big organizations, because law transcends everything. This will sound like I'm putting mediocrity in all the other courses, but law transcends everything. Law will govern the relation between these mamambogas here, these SMEs here, these small, medium, and micro entrepreneurs. Yes, and another thing that I'll say is, go to all until you find your niche. Go to all until you find your niche. Don't settle with one, and try to venture into experiences. For chapter, I'd say law school ruined our your experience as a law student. It did. But what it did for some of us, and I believe they will tell us, but what it did for us, it's made us expand our minds in how to really practice law, because we have interned most of the students in our class because of that COVID period. Some are actually working right now. So it actually shows a great deal on how people have really expanded since first year. So yes, that is something I'd encourage our viewers to do. Yes.
Law students have free time, because now you've said, I remember you just said that you might find yourself being a bookworm, right? You might find yourself isolating yourself. And then there's something else that you guys hardly sleep. So I want you to tell us.
Okay. Yes. Yes, we do have free time. It's all a matter of how you balance everything. How you balance. I'll speak about how you balance being a leader in this society, being a leader in the other, working here, and also being in class. Because there's a point where I found myself in such a space where you are a leader in certain organizations in school, certain societies in school. You are interning at a law firm or an organization, and you're also a student. So you need to balance between. And then I'll also chip in something that John Grisham has said in one of his books. Just like vampires are to blood, lawyers are to alcohol. Like we love
we can have a good time as lawyers, and that is why you're admitted into the bar. You're admitted into the bar. Yes, it's the bar of lawyers and all, but you get the gist of it. Yeah, so that's one thing. As long as you know how to balance your time, you can easily find free time.
Okay.
Yes. And a time to sleep also.
Okay. Yes, over to you.
Thank you. I think Patience has approached it from the practical perspective. So for me, I'll begin by saying, before you become a lawyer, you're a person first. Yeah? So there is what you do as a professional, and there is what you do, as a normal human being, because you also don't want to get lost in your career and not have a life at all, because it's very easy for that to happen for you in the law profession. And sometimes you'll have to work at night, sometimes you'll have to transnight, especially when you get into practice. Submissions are expected, court deadlines are strict. I've also, by the way, interned. So again, it's a question of creating time, because I would also tell people to check also on their things so that you don't spread yourself too wide, because it affects your physical health, it affects your mental health when you are doing too many things and you're not taking care of your of yourself. So you also need to invest time in self-care, invest time in sleep. It's difficult to say because
I'm saying this because I'm adding a kakadile to emoji. Like you literally never get time to sleep.
Yeah, so sometimes you'll have to read 5 cases and 5 articles for tomorrow's class and understand what the judge was trying to say, what the arguments that were being made. But I would say, my boss usually told me I've interned at 2 firms, one in Nairobi, another one in Nakuru. I'm going to another one in June after I finish, which has come from mooting. So extracurricular activities are rewarding. But what my boss tells me in terms of time is that you have to pay the price when you're a student and when you're growing up. So you can't expect to be sleeping for 8 hours. Like that's a third of your life. It's a third of the 24 hours you have. But also, as I hand over to Chepto, I think the one most important skill, I would say, in addition to time management, is focus. Because right now, technology is good and social media and everything, this is media. But you have to ensure that you really focus on the high value activities, so that you ensure that you're spending most of your time, you only have around 8-10 working hours a day or studying or everything. So you have to ensure that within that time, you actually accomplish the things that will yield high returns in terms of value.
Okay. Let's see whether she burns the midnight oil.
I sleep. I'm not in sleep. I try sleep.
Okay.
But not too much, because I don't think you can ever sleep too much as a law student, because just coming into the field, the learning curve is quite deep. You just have to, I don't know, we keep telling ourselves we are doing this right now so that we don't have to do it in
the future.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've been saying that since from 1. So I think with what they've said, you have to learn how to manage your time. The only thing I think I can add is having a proper support system. It's not enough to just have yourself. So it could be your parents, it could be your friends. You have to have a proper support system, so that when you're going through things, because things happen in law school, so that when it becomes difficult to just push through the night, you have someone you can text and say, hey, this is not working out. We need to at least meet and have a coffee and just say, oh my God, law school. And things like that. So have a proper support system. You can manage your time, you can focus, but without, like, you have to include a proper support system into those so that you just have, I don't know, an easier time. It can't be too easy, just lessen the load a bit.
Wow, thank you. So now, to my last question. I want to combine these two. You'll tell me your parting shot, and you also tell me where you see yourself in the future. Where do you see yourself in the future message? And your parting shot. Before now we go to the quick fire questions. Yeah.
Where do I see myself
in the future? Yes.
How far in the future?
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about taxes and women's issues. So I hope somewhere in the future I am still handling taxes. Yeah. I'm still, because tax is everything. Like, you can be sure of two things in life: death and tax. So I am hoping that from the policy perspective that I am able to at least come up with policies that reflect the current society within the taxes regime. They just sort of encompass everything from gender to health to human rights from that overreaching angle. I think that is from the career perspective. So I just hope that I'm still doing taxes and I'm really good at it. So to have this infinite, I wouldn't say infinite, like just vast amount of knowledge in such issues. I'm hoping that one time I can be as good as Professor Atia. Like, I just love how good she is with taxes and human rights and gender issues. Okay. So I'm hoping that at one point in time I can be just, I don't know, somewhere there. Yeah. Parting shot. I don't know. This is all what you decide to make it. Like, one of the few things I actually believe and actually heavily believe in is that whatever path you take, there's infinite number of opportunities. There's lots of opportunities for you there. So there's this notion that the career is flooded. It's not. You get there, chart your own path, find things you're passionate about, and just go for it.
Wow, amazing. Victor?
Wow, a deep question, a question that I ask myself every morning when I'm getting out of bed, because I am a huge believer of what many personal development, whether I'm a personal development coach, I read a lot of personal development material and career growth, personal growth. So one of my key I don't know how to call it. One of my key philosophies, I think that's the correct word, is imagine yourself, believe it, and whatever else has to happen for you to get there is not your job. Okay. So that is my parting shot. And that's how sometimes I tell people when they're facing challenges that whatever you need, I need to become a professor of dispute resolution, for instance. That master's that I must do, that PhD that I must do, is in a particular university waiting for me to get there.
Exactly.
So I don't have to stress myself over, how will I get there, or whoever is supposed to make me get that scholarship, the energy that I need to pursue those further studies is going to come. So that is my parting shot. Imagine yourself there, believe, and the rest that needs to happen will be solved by God, for those who believe in God, and the universe, as one consciousness. So in terms of where I see myself in the future, I've already mentioned one. Yes. Dispute resolution. I want to join academia, the bench later on. But I still feel like I want to say, Your Honor, in the matter. So I want to actually be a court-going lawyer. I just enjoy the, how lawyers argue, how you meet clients, how you put on a gown, how you carry your lawyer's bag. So I want to be in disputes. I've grown up in family context of a succession dispute. So disputes and succession is something that actually means a lot to me. So I want to get into just the arena of helping people agree, on the most basic of issues. Like we are not
feeling for each other anymore? Do we need to divorce? What happens to our kids? So helping people solve those issues so that they don't end up affecting a life that could have had a lot of potential. Yeah.
Wow, thank you.
Well, where do I see myself? It's funny, I was asking myself that question today and actually trying to figure out what do I actually enjoy in law school and in law in general. Like, see, there's a way where when you sit down, what do you want to read about? Yes, so that for me really matters. What do I want to read about? Because for masters and PhD, it's actually what do you want to read about? It's not because it's your choice to do a master's or a PhD. So yes, for me, I've actually said I want to see myself in the corporate space. I think that is my learning curve. That is where I start. But at the peak, I want to see myself in the ICJ.
Wow, amazing.
Or in the United Nations, either as a diplomat or in the United ICJ as in part of the bench, yes, because I enjoy matters public international law, matters how states relate to each other and how a person relates to a state and how an organization relates to a state. So that is something I really enjoy. That is something I have fun reading about. Yes, so that is something, that is where I see myself in the future and then in the 30 years. Yes, but I must venture into the corporate space first. I think that will satisfy that really huge desire on policies and how to actually make the corporate space something that people don't view as bureaucratic in a sense. It's actually something that actually has its branches and its roots spread out to the people. Yes.
I'll begin with you, Mercy. If you were given a chance today to change your course, which course would you pursue and why?
Linguistics. Linguistics, literature. I love reading African books and I love learning new languages.
Yeah. Okay. Ladies first.
For me, I'd actually pursue civil engineering. That's because I'm also, contrary, some lawyers are also good in math. So yes, I'd pursue that. I'd pursue that. Why? Because I want to know why a road in Murang'a is still sustainable after 30 years, yet a road in Mombasa has to be repaired after every 2 years. So yeah, something like that. Yes.
I would become a pilot. Number one, I really, really like planes. I think, sometimes I just sit and I want to see a plane landing or a plane taking off. So I'll just go online and just find, those are some of the videos that I just recommended on YouTube. Recently I saw a funny one of how the pilot speaks in the cockpit, like they are swallowing their mic or something like that, so they're not audible. And the reason for me is I just like the science behind planes and also traveling. Like I just like people, people of different cultures, people of different, some of them discriminatory. But it's life, and a lot of work has gone to ensuring that stops. But I am hoping I'll still, enjoy my pilot life. Yeah.
Just only one question.
Okay, let me ask another one. Actually, you see, because my plan was, nearly I saw patients wanted to answer that, so I gave her a chance. It was like I had 3. So
one
for
for
each.
Okay.
So let me ask the second one. Okay. So my second question is this: if you are given a chance to sit with or to dine with a very prominent person, who will that be? To dine with the most prominent person, and who will that be?
I think for me, it will be Michelle Obama, because as apart from she's known as the second lady. She's actually had a big impact. When you see Michelle Obama, you see she's had a big impact, not just being a second lady. She's had impact, and she's really diversified herself into writing, she's actually a lawyer by profession. So yes, I'd like to kind of know what she does, what she has done, and what she does to balance herself, because on Instagram she's always trending looking nice. You see, you don't have to be boring to be a learned person. So I'd like to meet with her. Yes.
A prominent person. Okay, the one I would say is not a very prominent one. It's an Indian guru called Sadhguru. I don't know whether you've seen him online. And it's because apart from law, like she has said, you don't have to be a boring lawyer. I think a lot about the philosophy of mind. So if I were to take another degree, leave being a pilot, it would be, like a serious one. It would be philosophy of the mind. And that is someone that I think has really understood how, because I just sit and wonder to myself, how does the universe work? Why do people think the way they do? I just ask myself so many questions, and I think he would be a person that could answer many of them. But in the legal profession, someone prominent is the immediate former Attorney General, Paul Kihara Kariuki. I think my path is almost similar to his. He has been in the bench, he's been the Attorney General, and I just like his personality and how he conducts himself.
So mine is dead. I think I'd like to meet the poet Mahmoud Darwish. I think he's written some of the most, beautiful poems I've ever read. So plus, I think it also helps, I think I would want to see the, Palestine-Israel situation in real life and just get it from someone else. So I think I'd meet the poet. If not him, maybe Chinua Achebe. I'm just going for the creatives. Yeah.
Okay, so as we wind up, one proverb for each one of you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
One proverb.
One proverb. Quick fire questions.
I think I'd link it to my parting shot. Mtakacha mvunguni sharti ainame. Yes, which for those who don't understand Kiswahili, it means that for you to get something at the under something, you need to get it. So it shows that you have to work towards what you want. Yes.
And now that we are going the translation way, I will mention a Kikuyu one, and it's my mother's favorite. Shia korire washo mugoda. And what the translation is, they found washo in the farm. And it means literally that the things that belonged to that lady called washo, she was being denied of some, meat in the homestead, but a bird, went, these birds that, grab your smokies in town, they just took it from where it was, from where the people had conspired not to take hers, and they just dropped it to her in the garden because she had actually worked for, what was being enjoyed by the rest. And what it means for me is that whatever you deserve will find you wherever you are. So sometimes, especially the youth, sometimes we feel like we are being exploited. In the law field, it might not be very rewarding when you're starting as an intern or whatever. So sometimes you feel like, do I work here? Do I go to Jivanji and look for other opportunities? So for me, what you are entitled to and what you deserve will find you wherever you go.
Wow, amazing.
I think I'll do an English one. So you
Yeah.
So it's I think it closely relates to what the two have said. So mine is a bad, I think they say a bad man, but let me say a bad person. A bad person blames his toes. So in most situations, when things are not working out, rather than self-reflecting, most of us look to pointing fingers out. So usually it's failing because so-and-so is not doing something. So you want it bad, you're already in the farm, but when things do not go your way, start by self-reflection. Do not blame others first before looking at yourself and saying, oh, I failed here and here, then assigning blame to the rest, probably later on. But just begin with yourself. Always introspection, like, it's me first.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you.
We've heard from the panelists, and I'll finish with the parting shots. Takata Bunguni, Sharti, Ainami. So you being there as a law student, not only as a law student, but pursuing any course, work hard towards getting the best. They've done their best to get themselves to India. I'm sure there are a lot of preparations that they did.
Let me know your comments on the comment section. Make sure to like, to share, and to subscribe. Thank you for viewing this show. I'm your host, Amani Lydia. See you next time.
Thank you.
Wow.